Hey, I'm Matt, and I'm gonna talk about my love for University of Oklahoma football. It literally started at birth. I mean, it's like our fight song says, sooner born and sooner bred, and when I die, I'm sooner dead. Um, I came home from the hospital in an OU football jersey that I believe my grandma made. And it said Big Matt on the back of it. And yeah, I remember growing up, it was the University of Oklahoma football. I had an uncle that went to the University of Oklahoma, and my dad told me this story about how he was a Boy Scout, and they were selling concessions at OU. And one of his fondest memories, because my dad was so much younger than all of his older brothers and sisters. I mean, he wasn't even in school yet, and most of his older brothers had graduated high school, or his two older brothers, and he still had a sister that lived there. And he was in Boy Scouts while my uncle, his brother, was at OU, and he used to stop selling concessions and sit down on the steps with his older brother and watch OU play football. And that, he said, that was one of his fondest memories growing up. Matter of fact, I remember the tears in his eyes in telling it about how that was probably the most time he got to spend with his brother was during OU football games while his brother was going to school there. And let's see, I was born in 81, and like I said, came home from the hospital in an OU football jersey that my grandma made. It was either my grandma or my great grandma. It was one of those two, or a great aunt, something like that. And of course, growing up in the 80s, I had the Boz haircut with the, the stripes and the long in the back, kind of the flat top on top. I had the Boz haircut, and I remember going to OU football games and just running down. And this truck is kicking a lot of debris up. I need to get around it. The back isn't closed all the way, and he's hauling gravel. I don't know if you can hear the clink, 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 clink. Okay. But I remember, being a kid during the game, you could run down the steps, and the University of Oklahoma, the sideline, the fans are basically sitting on top of the sideline. That's how the stadium's designed. And I'd run down there and I'd see Brian Bosworth, and I'd go, Boz, 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 and wave my arms and then point to my hair, and he'd just kind of give me a nod. Of course, he was in game mode. He always looked pissed off when he was in game mode. But seeing them down there, and I remember it was amazing just seeing the OU football players and how big they looked and just how powerful they looked and everything. And it's just like, wow. And then growing up, my dad always had friends that had season tickets, and they would take us. I remember when I was younger, my dad would take me to a game, and I remember there were times he would carry me out of the game with me on his shoulders, or carry me because I fell asleep. Like, I was that young. I remembered glimpses of him carrying me and people yelling Boomer Sooner. And then in my later years, not quite a teenager, I remember walking, because we'd park kind of by the duck pond, and walking down that way and walking back by the frat houses, and then holding up bottles of whiskey going, yeah, we won, and then pouring the bottles of whiskey in their mouth. As a little kid seeing that. But they weren't rude or mean or anything. They were just, celebrating the win. And I remember just going to games and sitting so high up because we weren't rich. And any stretch of the imagination. Of course, there were times when my lunch at school consisted of crackers and peanut butter. That was my lunch at school, because that's all we had. We had a little bit of peanut butter and we had some saltine crackers, and that would be my lunch at school. But my parents, my dad we'd scrape money together, and he would take me to an OU football game. We'd be sitting all the way at the top, and he would let me use his binoculars, and I'm just staring at the field, staring at the sideline the entire game, and looking at Coach Switzer on the sideline. And I remember when Switzer resigned. I remember that, and I believe my dad cried. I believe my dad cried when Switzer resigned. And then I remember going into the 90s when OU wasn't that good, and I was a teenager, and with the FCC, the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, I remember going to OU football games and celebrating. I had a big inflatable OU football helmet, and I'd wear that and just enjoy the game. I remember going to several games like that. I remember going to, several games. I remember my senior year in high school when Bob Stoops was first hired. Of course, I remember when Coach Stoops was first hired. And I remember the news was reporting, and even to me, he looked young. And I'm a senior in high school. Even to me, he looked young. And I remember he had a meeting with the players, and it got reported that he said, we are gonna win. I'm not rebuilding. We can win with what we have now. We can win, and we will win with you. And I remember that going, wow. And that 99 season. I remember that 99 season when it was my senior year in high school, and going to football games and watching Josh Heupel throw that duck down the field where the ball's just, down the field, but catching it, and how explosive it was, and how we were undefeated at home, and just watching Josh Heupel. Okay, the vehicles that were going slow, I would get over, and they hopped over. And just watching that, and the excitement you felt with the OU program, the excitement that I hadn't felt in years. And then that 2000 season, in the year 2000, I joined the Marine Corps. And that fall, I was at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, Fort Lost in the Woods, for my MOS, my military occupational specialty. Basically, my job in the Marines was doing training there, and I was there in the fall. And my dad would drive up on the weekend, and I remember we watched that Nebraska game, OU Nebraska, when it was in the year, this was a 2000 football season, when it was number 1 versus number 2, OU and Nebraska. And I remember we beat Nebraska, and my dad and I are sitting in a hotel room watching that game. And he could have come up, we could have been doing anything, but no, as a father and son, we sat there and watched OU football. And I remember the flea flicker with, it was Josh Heupel, where he caught the ball and scored a touchdown. I remember that. And I also remember the next year when Nebraska did that to us to win the game. But I remember that. In a hotel outside Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, with my dad, watching OU football and watching the flea flicker. And then later that season, I was at Camp Lejeune in French Creek, at Camp Lejeune in the barracks with some of my buddies, and I'm watching the game. 13-2, OU just dominating defense. Roy Williams just destroying fools. And I mean, we shut them out. The only points they had was a safety we got on a punt, that we gave them on a punt. And that was sweet. And then as I became an adult and in the Marine Corps, I got my OU tattoo. I got my OU tattoo when my first duty station was Camp Lejeune, and my platoon sergeant's last name was Russell, and his younger brother was DeMarcus Russell at LSU, and we lost to them in the Sugar Bowl. And yes, I say we because I am part of Sooner Nation. I am a Sooner. I'm not a football player, but I am a Sooner. I mean, Sooner born and Sooner bred. So we lost to them, to LSU, and in formation, he was giving me a hard time. Or no, this is before the game. He was giving me a hard time in formation. It's like, hey, French, so when LSU, wins and all this, are you going to be on the LSU bandwagon and blah, 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 blah? Well, after they lost that next weekend, I went out and got my tattoo. And I walked up there and I showed it to him because he was my platoon sergeant. And I popped that out to him. Or he wasn't my platoon sergeant. He worked upstairs in the office. But I showed it to him. I'm like, are you going to get an LSU one? And he goes, I'm just rooting for him because my little brother plays there. And I was like, I'm not a bandwagon fan. He's like, I know. But yeah, that was cool. And then when USC was on top, and it was Oklahoma USC for the national championship, I was stationed at Camp Pendleton, north of San Diego, during that time in Southern California, and everybody gave me a hard time. And I used to bring an OU shirt with me, and my office chair, I would set it on the back of my office chair while I would sit there, and they would give me a hard time. Come on, dude. And then as I got older, became a father, both my biological sons wore OU gear home from the hospital. Ronnie was too small to wear a jersey because he was taken. The doctor decided to do an emergency C-section about 3.5 to 4 weeks early. So he was so small, only preemie clothes would fit him. And luckily I bought an OU preemie onesie, and had some OU sweatpants that we rolled up the waist so that they were the right length. Because I'm the type that I go crazy whenever my kids, I couldn't with Quentin because I was deployed when he was born. But with Ronnie, I would go, and I had a job where I was always driving around. We'd have time to kill. So I'd go to a thrift store or a Babies R Us or a kids clothing resale. We're in the left lane and you're driving 50 and slowing down. And I would just buy all of the, boys' clothes that I like, tons of OU stuff. Well, both my biological sons wore OU gear home from the hospital. Okay. And, so yeah, they'd wear that home from the hospital. And I remember there'd be times Ronnie would be sitting in his, I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay, so our wedding, we got married in September. Originally, we had our wedding scheduled for the bye week, but my wife and I, we had it scheduled for the bye week. We had everything planned out, and I don't remember if the venue wasn't available that weekend or the pastor wasn't available. Or it might have been my ex-wife trying to throw a wrench in things, saying that no, we couldn't have him on this day, but we could have him on this day, which turned out to be a day OU was playing. So we made our wedding early in the day to where we could still watch the game. Luckily, it was, I think it was like a 6 o'clock kickoff, and we got done with our wedding, and we had to go to her parents' house to print off the hotel tickets because someone got us a hotel for our anniversary because, we were poor. We had our wedding behind the church in this field with a bunch of trees. I mean, it was a beautiful wedding, but we had it back there because we didn't have to pay. I believe and my grandma bought me a suit with my wife's wedding dress and everything. And they let us use the chairs and stuff in the church. And then my father-in-law set up the sound system because he had everything to do that because he was a musician. With the rental of the arch and stuff, and we bought flowers. I believe our wedding cost us less than $400. And and we paid for ourselves. And someone got us a hotel room. And I remember we had to go to her parents' house, and we got there by kickoff, and me and my new father-in-law sat there and watched the first half of the OU game. And then, because the hotel was local, during halftime we drove to the hotel, got the room, and I got up there just after kickoff of the third quarter, and I sat there and watched the rest of the football game on my honeymoon. Like, literally my honeymoon did not start until after the football game. And my wife was going, what do you love more, me or OU football? I don't think I answered her. Of course, I love my wife more than OU football, and my wife loves OU football. So, that, and then Ronnie was born, and I remember there were games I'd be watching, and he'd be sitting in his high chair, and OU would score a touchdown. I'd jump up and scream, yes! And he'd start crying because the loud noise scared him. Oh, and also my son, Quentin. I was deployed, like I said, when he was born, and my wife at the time, she kept changing the name. She goes, I don't like this name. Like, we'd agree on the name. She goes, I don't like it. Well, I had a Quentin Griffin, number 222 OU football jersey. And I finally messaged her through email, and I said, I don't care what his name is, because we already knew his middle name was going to be Mac, because it's a family name. So we already knew his middle name, and I said, I don't care what his first name is, as long as he wears a number 22 Quentin Griffin football jersey home from the hospital. And I'm like, Quentin Mac French. I'm like, that sounds good. So I typed it out. I'm like, how about Quentin Mac French? And she liked it, so we named our son Quentin loosely after Quentin Griffin. And my father-in-law at the time thought I was going to name him something like Oscar Ulysses French, so that his initials could be OU, because that's how much, I love Oklahoma football. Now, as I've gotten older, like, I'll be upset if they lose. I'll be upset if they lose. Like, when I was younger, I'd be pissed off. Like, when I was in the Marine Corps, I would be pissed off. Like, I would shut down, wouldn't answer my phone. I would be pissed off if they lost. Now, I'm upset, but I get over it fairly quickly, because I'm like, you know what? There's next week. Like, as I've gotten older, more responsibility, I'm like, you know what? OU football doesn't pay any of my bills. OU football doesn't put a roof over my head. OU football doesn't feed my kids. So, you know what? If they lose, yes, I don't like that they lost. But at the same time, it doesn't affect me or my family financially or anything like that. Like, I'm upset when they lose, but at the same time, I'm a Sooner fan, win, lose, or draw. And my wife, I think she loves OU football more than me. Like, I'll call her during games. Like, if I'm at work, I'll have my headphones in. I'll call her just to get updates. Like, during the time, there was one time that my radio, what are you waiting on? I have like a sports radio, like a running radio that goes around your arm and the headphones, and I'll listen to that during the game. But one time it broke. She had to go buy me a new one, and I called her, and I couldn't tell what's going on because I'm on the phone with her, and all of a sudden I hear, go, 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 and she's screaming. I'm like, what happened? And she's screaming. I'm like, what happened? She goes, oh yeah, we just scored a touchdown. So she loves OU football just as much as I do. But I legitimately love University of Oklahoma football. I do. I mean, both my biological sons wore OU gear home from the hospital. I wore OU gear home from the hospital when I was born. I have a son loosely named after an OU football player. Our dog Rocky, we let Ronnie pick. His name was either going to be Rocky or Boomer, and Ronnie picked Rocky, and it's Rocky because I love the Rocky series movies. You know, Rocky Balboa. As a kid, I loved that. So I mean, OU football. I have an OU football helmet that is always sitting. I mean, it's a miniature OU football helmet, but it's always sitting by the TV. Every game day, I did a few game days, but this year, every game day in the living room, my OU flag is going to be put up, and I have an OU inflatable that is inflated. It used to be on the front porch every single game day, but then the outlet out there stopped working, so now it's in the living room inflated every single game day. The OU football player with the number 1 and, you know, holding the football every single game day, that's inflated. I wear OU gear every game day. It's just my superstition. Every game day I have OU socks on. My underwear, I try to wear red. I don't have OU underwear, but I wear red underwear. I wear just regular shorts, or I'll like wear OU, you know, basketball shorts up to work because I work in a warehouse environment. I'll wear OU shorts up, but I always wear an OU shirt and always wear an OU hat. And I mean, I'm OU'd out to the nines. I always listen to the game or watch the game. And because I go to work at 1:30 in the afternoon on Saturdays, and so unless it's an 11 o'clock game, I don't get to fully watch it. But I love OU football. I honestly do. I have an OU football tattoo. You know, I love OU football. I'm not a bandwagon fan. I'm a fan of theirs, win, lose, or draw. I was a fan in the 90s. Okay? I was an OU football fan in the 90s. Matter of fact, the majority of the football games I've gone to in my life were in the 90s. And I was still an OU football fan. I come from a family of OU football fans. I mean, my uncle was OU football. Anytime my family gets together during football season, we are watching OU football. We talk about OU football. I mean, I can remember, to me, OU football also means family. To me, it also means family because I have a family that loves OU football. So that's why I love OU football. I'm at work now, so I gotta say bye. Bye.